So Mike Johnson is the Speaker of the House again, for now. All right, let's get into it. So the vote for Speaker was on Friday. Mike Johnson, the current Speaker of the House, won. He got 218 votes out of 434 members voting. And you'll say, but Chris, there are 435 members of the House. And I will say, you are right, but Matt Gaetz resigned right when the new Congress, the 119th Congress, opened on Friday at noon. So there were 434. So for Johnson to win, he needed to get 218, a simple majority of that 434, which was going to be tough, right? Because there were only 219 Republicans. Gaetz resigned, so that's an open seat. So even though Republicans technically have 220 seats, only 219 actual votes. And we knew that Tom Massey of Kentucky was not going to vote for Mike Johnson. Massey had been very clear about that. So we knew that Johnson's ceiling was 218 votes, which is exactly the number he needed, and he couldn't go any lower in order to get elected Speaker. He did on one ballot, but there's way more to the story, a couple really interesting things that I want to note for you. All right, so note one, as the vote started, right? And it's a roll call vote, and they go in alphabetical order. It's pretty basic. But as the vote started, you started to notice that a couple Republican members, mostly House Freedom Caucus members, the Trumpiest wing of the party, weren't voting. Now, they were there, but they would say their name and they wouldn't vote. So that included Andy Biggs earlier in the alphabet of Arizona. That included Andrew Clyde of Georgia, Mike Cloud of Texas. So you're sort of noticing this as it goes. So by the time they get to the end of it, there are 6 Republican members. So Biggs, Clyde, Cloud, Paul Gosar of Arizona, Andy Harris of Maryland, and Chip Roy of Texas. Those 6 just didn't vote at all. They didn't vote present. They didn't vote for Johnson. They didn't vote for someone else. They just hadn't voted. Then there were 3 members who voted for some Republican members who voted for someone other than Mike Johnson. So that was Tom Massey, who we knew wasn't going to vote for Johnson. He voted for Minnesota Congressman Tom Emmer. Then there was Ralph Norman of South Carolina. He voted for Ohio's Jim Jordan. And then there was Keith Self of Texas, who voted for Byron Donalds of Florida. It's all very complicated. The point is, 9 Republicans didn't vote for Johnson. Why is that interesting? It's interesting because House Republicans have proposed a rule change that in order for a motion to vacate the Speaker to be brought up, which, by the way, is how Kevin McCarthy got kicked out of the speakership last time, in order for that to happen, 9 members of that Speaker's party have to bring it up. You'll remember McCarthy agreed after 13 or 14 votes to be Speaker. He agreed a single member could bring up that motion to vacate, which Matt Gaetz of Florida did, and obviously McCarthy got kicked out. But now they're changing it to 9. So you need 9 House Republicans to say, we want a motion to vacate, we want to vote on Johnson. Well, that was 9, right? That's not by accident. That is 100% on purpose. It is message sending by those members to say, look, we've got 9. Easy. We may have more, but we've got 9, Mike Johnson. So if you don't do what we say, what we want, we can bring this motion to vacate up whenever we want. So what ultimately happens? The 6 who just hadn't voted vote for Johnson. And so now the vote is open. It's still the first ballot. Votes are normally 15 minutes long in the House, but they can hold them open for as long as they want. So the vote is open, it's open, it's open. I'm on a plane at the time, and I'm thinking, golly, they must be trying to cut a deal if it's open, right? They must think, okay, we can do this. We don't want to go to a second ballot. And then you see a couple people leave. You see Norman, Self, 2 of the 3 people who voted against for someone other than Johnson, and Johnson himself leave the House floor. They come back. They, Norman and Self, change their votes and make it to 18 for Johnson, and he wins. So the only person who voted against Johnson in the end was Tom Massey. Because remember, members can switch their vote if the vote isn't called, isn't gavelled down. So that's how Mike Johnson gets it. Now, a couple things. How did this happen? Donald Trump. Donald Trump called Self. he called and talked to him. He called Norman and talked to him. He made very clear he wanted Mike Johnson. Mike Johnson's main argument was Donald Trump's agenda has to go forward. The only way we can certify his election on January 6th and then move forward with his agenda is to have a Speaker of the House, and I'm the only guy who can get elected Speaker. Trump, as usual, took a victory lap. Here's what he said on Truth Social. Congratulations to Speaker Mike Johnson for receiving an unprecedented vote of confidence in Congress. That is, by the way, not unprecedented. Mike will be a great speaker and our country will be the beneficiary. The people of America have waited 4 years for common sense, strength, and leadership. They'll get it now and America will be greater than ever before. Okay. So that's point one. Johnson has Trump to thank. Trump will make sure Johnson knows that. If Trump ever sours on Johnson, big trouble. Then I want to go back to those 9. Remember I talked about those 9 votes, or 9 members who either didn't vote at all for Johnson in the beginning of the roll call or who voted for someone else. So just in case you thought that was a coincidence, and again, it wasn't, but just in case you didn't, Chip Roy from Texas, one of the people who withheld his vote for that, but then eventually voted for Johnson, said this on X after the vote. Everything we do needs to set the Congress up for success and to deliver the Trump agenda for the American people. Speaker Johnson has not made that clear yet, so there are many members beyond the 3 who voted for someone else who have reservations. Okay, and just in case that wasn't clear enough, Roy and 10 other members signed a letter that they then made public to Johnson in which they wrote about their votes for him. Quote, "We did this despite our sincere reservations regarding the Speaker's track record over the past 15 months, adding that he now needed to, quote, prove he will not fail to enact President Trump's bold agenda." Right. So, Johnson won. Sort of. So, 2 big takeaways. One, look, this is the only good outcome for Mike Johnson out of today, right? He needed to win. It was a really, really, really narrow way to get it, and he got it. Credit to him. Because if he had come up short or if he had to do it in 10 ballots or something, we would have said, oh my gosh, I can't believe he's so weak. Got it done in 1 ballot. Now, they held the vote open for a long time, but he got it done in 1 ballot, and that he deserves credit for that, and he lives to fight another day, which in politics is a lot of the game. But takeaway 2, and this is really, really important. Yes, Mike Johnson is a speaker, but that doesn't change this math. 219 Republicans, 215 Democrats. An incredibly narrow majority that will get narrower when people like Elise Stefanik, the congresswoman from New York, Mike Waltz, the congressman from Florida, when they are confirmed, they've been nominated to positions in the Trump administration. We expect they will be appointed to those positions, and then they will resign their seats in Congress. So the Johnson majority might not even look like a majority. And that's the reality of the situation is the people who sent this letter, these 11 people, the 9 of them who either didn't vote for him or voted for someone else, these are not people who understand that. They either don't care or they choose to ignore the reality of the math. 219 to 215 is not a workable majority for Mike Johnson or anyone else, Democrat or Republican. He's going to have to make compromises because he's going to lose a vote here or a vote there on his side, on the Republican side. And if he does, well, then they don't have a majority. So to me, he's buying himself time. And he's got to be happy with that because today could have ended with him not being the speaker anymore or us not knowing if he could be the speaker if they postpone more votes until later. It ends, excuse me, with him being the speaker in the 119th Congress today and probably for the near future. But I would say it's a really hard road. Yes, Johnson has now won the right to try to walk that road. But man, is it a hard road. And nothing that happened today changes that math. 219 to 250, an incredibly narrow majority, or those dozen-ish Republican members who simply will never be happy unless they get everything they want, and they're never going to get everything they want because of the math of the House. All right, that's it for me today from lovely and warm Florida. I hope everyone is doing well. I always ask you to do 4 things. I ask you to subscribe to this channel. I ask you to like this video. It's easy. Just give it double thumbs. I ask you to comment on this video. Do it for the algorithm. And I ask you to tell 10 friends. I'm making a bunch of videos every week, somewhere between about 5 and 10 videos a week. I'm also, once I get back to it next week, doing 2 live streams a week on Tuesdays and Fridays, and as well as a bunch of shorts content and fun stuff. So subscribe so that you never miss a moment. All right, everybody, take care.